absolutely astoundingly famous and wonderful people who are doing extraordinary things to tackle climate change, probably none more so than John Elkington, Sir Tim Smith, and some fantastic people like that, and of course Sasha Dench, the star of the show we're going to speak about tonight. I wanted to kind of set the scene a bit by saying climate change, COP26 is heading to Scotland, it's heading to Glasgow, 245 days, I think the last frightening number was. And we have to be able to tell a convincing, compelling, inspiring story about how the environment and the economy are the same thing. And again, John Elkington knows this better than all of us, is that we shouldn't be pursuing different agenda. This is the greatest economic opportunity of our days. If you had to listen to Mark Carney, it's the most pressing opportunity, the most pressing challenge of our times. And we have to make sure that we put our house in order and we are on our toes to make sure that we can maximize the opportunity for COP26 in Glasgow. I am privy to lots of different ideas and opportunities that come my way day in, day out. None more so exciting than this one. When I first spotted Sasha, I think there was an introduction made by a mutual friend, and she said, look at this, this person wants to do this. And I think I had a glass of whiskey in my hand at times and I almost dropped it, were it not for being such a good malt. And it made me think the level of terrifying ordeal that Sasha's going to go through to bring climate change to us all is astounding. And the very least I thought I could do, which is why we're all here, is that how do we get behind this? How do we get wind behind these sails? How do we help build this narrative so that it becomes the single most compelling story at COP26? And in doing so, it inspires that momentum of ambition and opportunity and hope. There's a lot of people on the event tonight, and to go around everyone for a quick introduction, it might take quite a long time. But what I would urge you to do is we have a chat box. If you want to introduce yourself and maybe put your LinkedIn post on there or who you are, I'm sure people will be reaching out to you from across the screens. But I think without further ado, I would love to introduce my panel member for the night. And again, I mentioned them and I feel a bit kind of like nervous introducing them because I've been fans of both their works for such a long time. So there's John Elkington who's here with us tonight, and Sir Tim Smith, who probably need no introduction. And of course, Sasha, who is the human swan, you'll maybe know her as, but I know her as the human dynamo, the relentless energy and ideas and ambition for climate change knows no bounds. So hopefully that will rub off on us some of that adventurous spirit. Because the one thing I want to try and set out is this narrative, and I've been socializing it a lot, is that climate change shouldn't be viewed as a cliff edge. It should be viewed as a mountain, and people like climbing mountains. There's an endeavor that engenders a spirit of bravery when you see mountains, So what we need to do is still realize that climate change is tough, it's challenging, it's dangerous, it's awful, but we still have time to do something quite seismic and quite spectacular. And Sasha's project, which we'll hear all about soon, is going to actually make us feel a wee bit more inspired than we've probably done for such a long time. And I see Justin Keeble, my good friend from Accenture, jumps right in this. So thank you for that, Justin. I'd love to see a lot more of those exchanges, please. So I want to keep my talk to a minimum because why, you're not here for me, you're here for this. And I'd maybe now kind of ask John Elkington to speak a bit about your work with Sasha and maybe inspire us a bit, John, because we are kind of a bit nervous about COP26 being in our home. So maybe you can inspire us into thinking we're going to do something that's never been done before. Over to you, John.
Okay, Dan. Okay. I can hear voices. Maybe I'm sort of in the angelic state. Martin, just to say, you've roundly embarrassed everyone else. Let me just do the same for you. You've hidden your light under a bushel, whatever that might be. But your work on climate, Scottish Enterprise, I mean, it's just exemplary and a model for us all. So, and it gives me hope that we can turn COP26 into something extremely powerful at this critical point in our collective history. I have to say, when I first heard of Sasha's round Britain flight plans, what came to mind was a man, and that man was William Cobbett. And he went, some of you will know of his rural rides. He rode around parts of England in the 1820s at a time when agriculture was going through an absolute transformation with the Industrial Revolution changing everything. And why it came to mind was that we're there again. We're at a point in our collective history where people talk about the fourth industrial revolution, but things are changing within our economy, not just because of Brexit, not just because of other things that are going on at the moment, like the pandemic, but because of this huge push now towards decarbonization, and behind that towards regeneration. So this is a very timely plan and flight, and you know, I'm immensely excited. But I'm excited for another reason, and that is that both Sasha and Tim were sort of inaugural winners of an award that we launched early last year. January, we had something called the Tomorrow's Capitalism Forum in London, co-hosted with Aviva Investors. And I just completed a book called Green Swans. The idea of Green Swans is that there are forms of change now evolving around us, which are potentially exponential and systemic. And they're coming at us very much faster than most of us potentially realize. So the three winners in that first round were Dennis Hayes, who many of you will know founded Earth Day back in 1970, got 20 million Americans out on the streets to protest on the environment in the first year of 1970. And now Earth Day happens when the pandemic isn't here in countries around the world. Tim, you know, turned a vast great hole into paradise, and is now sort of spreading that movement around the world. And Sasha just is Sasha. And when I first heard, I read a piece in the Times about how she flew from Siberia to the UK. I don't know whether it was 11 countries or however many countries it was, but just the stupefying idiocy or bravery of it, and the way that she spotlighted migratory species and the challenges that they face. What an astonishing impact that I had. So delighted to be part of that. Very much looking forward to what everyone else has to say. And back to you, Martin, if I may.
Remember the unmute button. You think after a year we've had that mastered. So far the quote of the evening, and I want a competition for the quote of the evening. Sasha is just Sasha. I absolutely love that. It's fantastic. And there's an infectious, in a good way, he says, energy from Sasha that makes people think, I'm going to have to do more. I'm going to have to be better. I'm going to have to try harder. And I think that is a message for COP26. When you think you're doing enough, double it, because it's probably not enough. When you think you've had enough conversations with people who you're fearful of conversing with because they're maybe in a different camp than you, then that means you need to phone them that day and not kick it into the long grass and wait. So there's a lot of connecting happening in Scotland, and every one of you on here have been handpicked because you are our connectors in chief. You are the people who's going to bring this narrative to life. So at that point there, I'd maybe just now ask Sasha to take us through whatever it is that goes on in that head of yours that makes you think you can just fly without engines and the like. And then over to you, Sasha. You're on mute, Sasha.
At least it now notifies you that you're on mute. That's a good thing. So yes, so I was going to say that most of you I've spoken to before, but actually there's quite a few people appearing that I haven't spoken to before. So I will give you a brief rundown of the project. However, we have one slightly pressing issue in that we've had Emma Ailsworth who's joined the call. She has to go to pet rehab in 5 minutes, and she just wanted to come on board. So basically the summary of the story is, I have looked at previous expeditions, the growing elements of climate change, what can we do about it, and have put this project together. So hopefully most of you have an idea of what it is. It's an electric paramotor flight all around the coast of Britain trying to break a world record. Emma wanted to jump on though briefly to just tell us from a point of view of her experience of working on the last project with me, but also from the point of view of being now head of the Eco Attractions group, the impact that we can have even after the project. And it's a weird place to put this in the schedule, but she's only got a few minutes.
Thank you, Sasha. And yes, very sorry that I've got to run for the sake of my pet. So my name's Emma Ailsworth. I run Eco Attractions, which is an alliance of 11 amazing eco attractions around the UK. And I've known Sasha for over 10 years personally and professionally, from when we both worked for Wildfire and Wetlands Trust, which I was there for 17 years co-running the consultancy. And Flight of the Swans was the most incredibly ambitious, daring, exciting, heartwarming, collaborative project, engaging so many different communities and cultures and audiences along the flyway, from hunters to school children. And it was a really empowering, engaging people to make positive behavior changes, but also showing that everyone could be part of that story and the solution to help protect that species. And, you know, I think one of the things that I was so it was so amazing to Sasha's sort of sheer determination, passion and belief, and obviously ability to fly a paramotor. But, you know, it was a huge success, and WWT took that risk because it was a bit of a crazy idea. You know, I'm going to travel 3,000 miles and follow the flight of the swans. And so when I heard Sasha talking about the new project around Britain Climate Challenge, I was so excited. And as you said, John, it's kind of stupid in a way. It's the most crazy thing to think that someone could do that. But I was so excited for our members, because all our members are about connecting people with nature, about inspiring sustainability, and very much talking about the climate change agenda and making it possible for people to be part of that solution. And we engage with over 17 million people. And as a group, all our members are unbelievably excited by the potential to help inspire people through this project, and to demonstrate that you can do this in a really inspiring and human way. And I think that's the thing. This project has the ability to capture people's imagination, engage people with something that is challenging, but in an inspiring and human way. And our members are very supportive of this project because they can see the benefit of being able to actually engage with our 17 million people out there in an exciting way, and be part of the climate change solution, showing some of the positive things communities, businesses and individuals are doing up and down the country. They're excited about being potential landing sites, featuring some of the incredible projects that they and their communities are delivering to help fight climate change. But there's also an opportunity for legacy of this project in terms of the incredible content that Sasha's going to collect. So the sound, spoken words, data, drone footage and imagery that could be used to develop really exciting interpretations and materials like large-scale photographic exhibitions, similar to the popular images from air, and also at home and within eco attractions, digital opportunities such as VR experiences, and creating a legacy for the project. So one of the ways that that will happen is through investment, and hopefully that some of you will be keen to join on that journey. And we, I say, as a group, are so excited to support Sasha and your team on this amazing venture, conservation adventure.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that over to me now, Martin, on the schedule? Martin and Ruth?
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Okay,
Like I
yeah.
say, this is very informal this night. Just imagine we're all sitting in your lounge. So it's very informal. So over to you, and then I'll join afterwards.
Yeah, so Ruth, I'll probably just speak. I don't bother too much about the slides. I know, unfortunately, I asked Ruth to keep everyone to schedule. We've already overrun, so she's going to have a bit of her hands tied slightly. So yeah, I suppose a summary of the project, and feel free to ask any questions in the chat, because you all have had different levels of interaction and awareness with us about how it works. So yeah, the summary of it is the inspiration for me came from a couple of things. The inspiration to really focus the expeditions we're doing on climate rather than focusing primarily on migratory species was the last expedition flying from the Russian Arctic. Climate was the exacerbating factor on every single issue pretty much, and we saw very tangible examples of it. I had two members of my ground crew who consider themselves climate skeptics, as in dislike Greta Thunberg for her message. And my main problem was that those were the two people on my team who were actually the most practical, my engineer and one of the other pilots, who I would turn to in terms of in times of trouble, if we needed to find solutions to something. So I thought, right, we basically need to maybe try and find a way of framing the climate message around positive solutions, ways that we can get out of it, less on the negative messages. And then the other really key moment for me was last year in January, right before I spoke at the event that John was mentioning. We lost our family home in the Australian bushfires. So personally, that put the climate issue right up in a very different space for me in terms of how I think about it. It went from kind of knowledge to something that I think about when I wake up in the morning and think, right, what can we do? And I'm determined to focus on solutions. So anyway, in talking to various people, COP26 was coming up and I thought, I do big expeditions, I talk about climate globally, it's time to focus on what we can do here. I was struggling to find what other NGOs had going on that was really going to engage people that weren't already talking climate, that weren't already watching kind of climate news and things. What could we do for Joe Bloggs, the ordinary people? And so I thought, let's bring to them local examples of climate change and also solutions. And then looking really personally at myself, and we're all worried about our own hypocrisy, whether you're in companies, whether you're individuals. I fly a petrol-powered paramotor most of the time. So I had to have a look at my kit and go, can we develop in time an electric paramotor with the power to let me go all the way around the country? And so, yes, put that all in train. Came up with the idea of flying around the country in this thing, stopping and talking to people who've got local tangible examples, filming things from the air and meeting people all along the route. And Ruth kind of also, Ruth is thankfully showing me giving me a prompt of a slide. So in all of that, we have now managed to produce this electric paramotor. It is capable, not quite as capable as a petrol power motor. We might be able to get 55 minutes flight out of it at a time. But yes, this is the machine as it works. It weighs about 32 kilos, about the same as a fully loaded paramotor, and super reliable, and fingers crossed that will work. We've got 4 batteries, so we should be able to do 8 flights a day on the expedition. Can you flick back to me again now, because the rest of it won't be focusing necessarily on just on that. The mechanics of the ground crew is me flying an electric paramotor, 3 vehicles in the ground crew with 6 people whose main role is to keep the expedition moving and to be filming and photographing the whole expedition. We'll be doing, I suppose, 2 kinds of stories every day. We'll be visiting a couple of different sites where we can gather stories under 3 main categories. They are industry and innovation, home and community, and farming and nature. So different positive stories and solutions around those general categories. But there's another form of story. Every night we'll be camping, and we've been speaking to, well, we've got a team of researchers in the background, of which Ruth and Jackie are 2 of them, who have been picking up stories for us. We have yet to find anybody that hasn't offered us to A, wanted to collaborate, and B, offered us place on their farm or their property or their rewilding site or a space of land next to the water company. So there's plenty of different stories that are coming out there. And in the evening, so we'll have an opportunity there to bring people around a campfire, a virtual campfire, to have a conversation. So people we haven't been able to visit can turn up and talk to us as well. Media will be invited to both of those as well. I feel like I've been talking solidly for a while. Is there anything really critical? So yes, our contribution to COP. So as a UN ambassador, my contribution, I've been to various different COPs and MOPs, and to be honest, I'm not really excited about physically going to them, if I'm being brutally honest. They're talking about the details of things, and most people won't go there. The audience that we want to reach are the ordinary public who don't potentially even know that COP's happening. So our main contribution is trying to run a 6-week trailer to COP, making people go, what is that? What's it about? What's it important? And getting everybody asking the question, Britain drove the Industrial Revolution, can we drive the Green Revolution too? So that's the general core of the project. Can I hand over from that now? Anyone have any questions?
If anyone's got questions, either put your hand up or put a question in the box and we'll come to you. But hopefully the last half hour, we really want to get into lots and lots of questions. Don't see anything at the moment. One thing I would say is that if Ruth would mind putting up a slide, because what we are doing here is we are trying to find support. But let's speak about some other supporters. You've got some very high level supporters. You've got the United Nations high level champion, Nigel Topping, who's Glaswegian, Not a lot of people know that, but I'm just making sure people realise that it's going to be Glaswegians, it's going to save the planet, with obviously Australians and people from England and everywhere else, he says quickly. But Nigel, you can read that comment there. Nigel sees this as a really, really integral, important story. And if you didn't think Nigel's important enough, we also have world famous, who are absolutely fabulous supporters of Sasha. Did you see the joke there? And I won't even attempt to read that in the glamour to which it was written. But as you can see there, this is a really personal, you know, high level support from John Alumni, OBE. And again, there's been quite a substantial financial support there too. So, you know, we just have to make sure that, you know, we all can do everything we can to support this, Sasha, because it's really, really exciting, really important. Now, we will get to the point later when we're thinking about, so, because there'll be eager people on this, and you've all been handpicked because you're eager people and you're problem solvers going, I need to get involved. How can I get involved? We'll come to that. So if you can just hang fire for a moment, but I'd like to maybe introduce for a second, if I can follow my notes properly, it's Kate Stockings. If Kate's there, maybe you can come on the screen and introduce yourself. I'm looking at Sasha. Is Kate still here?
I have a feeling Kate Stockings might have had to go.
I am still here.
You're here, Kate. Hi, Kate.
6 minutes. Yeah, thank you, Martin. I am here for 6 minutes and then I'm going to leave, but I will post in the chat box some contact details if anybody wants to get in touch. So my full-time job is a head of geography at a large comprehensive school in Camden in London. So I'm a full-time geography teacher. But alongside this, I do a lot of writing of resources and presenting about geography curriculum and kind of geography education. But recently become more and more involved with climate change education. And I suppose my main kind of interest in it is that working at a comprehensive school, I teach the ordinary kind of population of the country, and therefore have the perspective of what normal teachers need, I suppose. And Sasha got in touch and we've been talking about the project and how we can get it out to as many schools as possible. And I think what particularly excites me about the project is its UK focus, because I know that I'm guilty of almost teaching climate change with a bit too much of a global lens. And a lot of the climate change resources out there currently are very, very global in focus. And while that is, of course, necessary, it's really difficult to get high quality resources about UK adaptation, UK mitigation, and the impacts of climate change in the UK. So Sasha and I have been talking about just how powerful these stories are going to be for students, because there shouldn't be a school in the UK that isn't connected in some way to these places by nature of going around the whole country. So our plan at the moment is to formalise how we can get the journey out to as many schools as possible. And really important is making it really easy for teachers to get involved, because I am so aware that it is really difficult to find the time to do something like this. And teachers often get emails about projects going on, but you will look into the detail and say, whoa, I'm lost, this is confusing, I don't know how I'm going to kind of get involved. And we're really, really keen to avoid that. So the current plan is to do twice weekly very short video clips where I do a Q&A with the team and with Sasha and find out about what they've learned on the journey. And we will share that with the education community. So we will get that out on blogs, we will get that out on social media, Twitter being the main one for education these days. And we will share these video clips twice a week and encourage people to use them in lessons, in form time. They will only be 5 to 7 minutes long. We will invite students to ask questions and we will respond to the questions in the next video clip. So students should really feel like they've got the opportunity to ask and be involved in the journey. And then we are building up to a competition. So students will follow the story, they'll follow the journey, and they will be invited to enter a competition where they answer the question, how can the UK lead the green revolution? And we are currently in conversations, I think that's right to say, Sasha, about what we can do with those entries and how we can celebrate them as best as possible. Because I know from my own students that what really gets them engaged is believing that their work matters. So if they're going to do a competition entry, how can we convince them that someone is going to look at this work and really care and really take on board what these 11, 12, 13-year-olds have to say? And part of that is rewarding them as well for taking the time to do that entry.
So really excited to be involved and really excited to see how far we can get this, how many schools we can get involved, how many students we can reach, and yeah, Sasha and I are kind of continuing the conversations over the next few weeks about really how to make sure this has a huge impact. So if anybody has any further ideas or further kind of connections about how to grow that, it would be really great to talk to you.
Thank you, Kate. I think, and I know individuals right now, Marie Macklin, Vicky Distilly, there's a lot of people from Doosan's and Accenture on this call watching now who are writing feverishly about how to contact you and get involved. So, because I think a lot of people are interested in young people and making sure that they're not just left in this, you know, apathetic, it's Climageddon. You know, there is hope, and we want to build that hope and construct that. So, we're going to go back to Sasha soon, but I think we haven't heard yet from Sir Tim Smith, and I'd love to hear Tim at the moment as to how you first got involved with Sasha and just inspire us as well, Tim.
Marvellous. Can you hear me?
Crystal clear.
Marvellous. Well, I was introduced to Sasha through my mate, John Elkington, who said, you really must meet this wonderful person. She's a force of nature. And that's the theme I'm going to take for the next 3 minutes. And Kate, you were brilliant, very inspirational. We'd like to have you as a statue here at Eden for what you stand for. I think we're living in a time which is more exciting than since humans came down from the trees and went onto the savannas. I think we have a real problem to do with the media portraying the fact that we're going to hell in a handcart, and that is not a really good way to get young people, or indeed old people, excited about a moment where we lift our eyes to a distant horizon and actually dare to hope, to dare that the future still remains ours to make. I became involved supporting Sasha because I would have done anyway because I think she's wonderful. But one of the things that I think could be quite helpful for all of us to think about is that Avaz and YouTube have just done a survey of 46,000 people, asking them for their opinions about sustainability, the environment and whatever. And what is really interesting is a huge number of people have learnt to distrust the words environment and sustainability. And yet there is an almost unanimous love and hope for the word nature, which I think is perhaps to do with the innocence of the word, and also perhaps because we've been going through a pandemic where most of us have been sort of stuck in one place, and that's given us the benefit, the privilege of seeing the seasons go past at a pace which is unusual in most of our experiences since childhood, certainly in my case. And almost everybody I know, has been affected by realizing how much they need nature. So many conversations, and I'm sure it's the same for all of you, have been about, you know what, a lot of this is really simple. It's about how dare people stop us having clean air, clean water, fertile, healthy soils. How dare they? And I think there is an aura, an atmosphere of let's be unreasonable, because actually this shouldn't be left to middle-aged men who put the brakes on everything and think that things should be linear. I think the pace of change is going to be absolutely radical over the next 5 years. I think in 5 years' time, if I'm still alive, we will see a world that is almost totally different to where it is today. I hate to sound political, but I can't help myself. When a tree dies, the year before it dies, it flowers. It flowers like it's never flowered before because it wants its genes to continue. I feel that way about populist politics all over the world. I feel that it is a dying tree. And actually, we are very nearly at the dawning of a completely new crop of young people that are inspired to see the world as not having national borders, but actually being about just one very, very precious planet. And Sasha's journey is it's all about that. It's flying over a very, very precious jewel and having the benefit of seeing lots of people that are doing really great things. And what I'm really hoping is going to come out of this, and we'll talk a bit about it later, is that an awful lot of ordinary people like us will realize that we're all ordinary. So what are they doing? Get the old consumer nosebag off and become a citizen, because actually now is the time to really get active, because we really can change the world. And as I said before, the future does remain ours to make. So let's support Sasha and get as much publicity and as much enthusiasm and excitement behind her as we all know she deserves.
Absolutely fantastic, Tim. And you mentioned something there about this isn't, there's a line that happens a lot. People say somebody should do something about that. I'm like, yeah, you should do something about it, and we'll help. So it's something about that, supporting each other, but not through the lens of a placard saying down with this thing. It should be more about how can I help? I've got some ideas. And we're already starting to see this big Count Me In. I know you're an ambassador for the Count Us In. So maybe you can, is there anything you want to tell us about that? Maybe between you and Sasha about something we should be getting involved in?
Well, I think we're rocking on about, well, we could go straight into it. Sasha, why don't you do your bit and then I'll come in behind you in harmony.
Flawless.
Sure. Sure, and yes, thank you very much, Ruth. So yes, for those of you who've noticed, there's actually a double world record attempt. So the first record is flying around the coast of Britain, but the second one is trying to rally the most number of people to take action on climate. And the mechanism we want to do that through is the Count Us In website, which will be an app as well, which basically outlines 16 different actions that people can take. And as you're kind of going through the scheme, you can pick any one of those and make a suggestion of what it is that you can do, and you can be tracked on that. So behind all of this system, there's a mechanism which can track not only that people have made a pledge to do it, that they have also recorded some sort of action. It's an aggregating program, so it actually will pull together the Count Us In actions from all around the world, from different countries, from people that are signing up to it. Count Us In can also be white labeled, so different companies have picked it up. I think IKEA and BT are two of them that have picked it up, and will be trying to rally their staff and customers around it as well. So Tim Smith and I are both ambassadors. In fact, they changed the title to something else recently. Hopeful, optimist, cautious.
There we are. Yeah.
Something along those lines. Anyway, for the scheme, and but in order to get the world record, we basically will need to, in a 1 month period, get 140,000 people to sign up to it. So amongst all of you in the call, financing or not, if there was a way of getting staff, customers to back this, it will be verified by the Guinness World Record, and people who do it will be able to go to the Guinness World Record website and download a certificate. I've got one on my wall from the last crossing, and it's a massive talking point. So yeah, that would also be a fantastic help, and it will help us turn all the storytelling, which will connect back to the link to the Count Us In app, into practical action. Over to you, Tim, for a
But absolutely, kiddo, you're a star. Well, while you're risking your life, all we need to do, guys and gals, is to get everybody we know to tell 2 people, and then tell them to tell 2 people to sign up to do something in the space of a month, and we should get to way more than 140,000. Obviously, at Eden, we're putting all our membership people on alert, and we're going to rock this. But I think 140,000 is too low an ambition, so let's go for a lot more than that. And remember that the target here is rather sweet. When Christiana wrote the book, it's all about trying to persuade 1 billion middle-class, rather soppily inactive, but quite sympathetic people to actually get off their butts and become citizens. I'm one of them, so don't worry. I mean, I think there is a thing that there's a huge bunch of people out there who've never been angry enough or motivated enough to really go for it. I think our job is to actually tell people, yeah, you haven't done it. Well done. You've saved up your energy for this time, because this is the time. And I think it's going to be great. I would like to think that we try and get 1 million in a month. And I'm sure if everybody on this call pledge themselves to do this with their own network, to say, come on, guys, just this one time, to show that it's actually worth having some friends. And if you don't do this, I'm not your friend anymore. I will unfriend you. And in fact, you're a completely loathsome human being, and no Christmas presents or birthdays, and I hope you're dead. Okay, be unreasonable about getting everybody to sign up to this, all right?
Well, on that cheery note, I think the 1 million, I think we need to circle back in a month and be toasting that 1 million. And we'll maybe toast with the world's first carbon neutral gin, carbon positive gin, which is just by Ardbickie, who are here this evening. So there's something, I'm getting this vibe now that everything's changing, the narrative is changing, the optimism is rising, Christiana Figueres, etc. The narrative is rising now. We can't just sit back and say, well, this is somebody else's problem to solve. We've got people on this call here. One of my top and people who inspire me is my boss. I know you think we expect me to say that, but Terry Ahern, who most of you will know, and if you don't, you should, is someone who just looks at everything from a completely different lens. Is solution focused. He's transforming the Environmental Protection Agency Scotland to be the world's first unbelievably economic focused, well-being driven EPA. Now, the reason why I mention that is if every EPA in the world started to look at SEPA's model and say, well, we need to be more like that, we need to be more part of the solution rather than listing problems to fix. So, you know, just big shout out to Terry there, because he allows me to do all of this crazy stuff that I get to do, which is just great fun. So you must be sitting there thinking now, saying, right, that's a half an hour gone, that guy's talking a lot. How do I get involved? Where do I help make these things happen? And some of you already have jumped ahead of me and you've made connections. Bobby Kane, you know, people have made connections. You've shouted out to Sasha saying, like, I'm in, where do I sign up? How do I get involved? So I'm maybe going to pass over to Sasha now to tell us a bit about it. But one of the things I'm eager to see, and I'm going to, for the UK, but specifically for Scotland, because that's where I am, is I want to see, when Sasha's flying over, I want the world to see that this is a country that gave the world the first few industrial revolutions and a kind of slightly flawed economic system. So it's payback time. So we're going to sort some of those things. We're going to shift the wealth of nations to the well-being of nations. We're going to make the fourth industrial revolution predicated on solving the first three left behind. And we need to do that together. So there's something quite exciting about some of the locations that hopefully we can tempt Sasha out of the sky to come and speak about, because some of the stuff we're doing is awesome. And I want the world to see it. So Sasha, over to you now, if you want to maybe tell us a bit about how people can today get involved.
Okay, yes, okay. So I will do that maybe. So slight change from their running order brief. So yeah, as I mentioned before, I didn't have a chance before to get into the media side of it, but basically the ways of getting involved are multiple. As we've said, Count Us In is one way of helping us to make this kind of project have impact. We have been talking to various different people about Stories and Places to Land. Obviously, we are still looking for some funding for the project. We've got enough to make the project, the core of the project, happen, but there's lots of ways that we could make it do more. We could expand on the education program. We could do more on the events afterwards, and we could do with a bit more to get the whole project going. So obviously, funding is a key part as well. I'm not sure if that's quite where you were heading for with that in particular, Martin, but also in terms of stories. So if your companies have an incredible story to tell, you know, I will highlight a couple now. So one of them is, I know she's in the call, so we would really love at the start to head off to Halo and look at what does the green revolution look like in terms of recreating jobs for people? What can it look like in terms of buildings? So that people end up with a story of kind of the green revolution being a transition to green jobs, more jobs, a different economy rather than loss and doom and gloom, as others have mentioned. So that is a key part of it. But as I said, around the country, we'll be looking at all different sorts of stories. So if anyone here has great stories and they want to suggest them, we have got a team of researchers who are out there still looking for ideas. If you want to get on board, we'll find a way of making that work. Martin, do you want to prompt me on where you wanted me to go next?
Yes, well, I'm looking at the feed. I'm trying to, Mr. Magoo without my glasses, so I'm trying to see who's offering support. And I can see Tim Rothery from Viridor. I'm seeing lots of you in Hunter. So I'd really welcome, because this isn't just us chatting. If there's someone that's sitting there saying, I've got a really good idea, I really want to speak about it, I've got an amazing location that I'd love the world to know the story that we're doing. So please, you know, please raise your hand at the moment, or
Can I share some of the media background?
Yes, that would be great. Well, people are building up the courage to come on screen.
Okay, so I'll tell you what we have got in store in terms of stories. So as I said, sort of Jackie and others, you can see Jackie Peterson in this group, have been busy identifying stories. We're identifying from them which ones are going to be of most interest to external media as well. So we'll be producing our own social media content, which we will share through our own networks, but also through a network of NGOs, and that's quite expansive now. Prompt me, team, if I miss any out, but there's the Climate Coalition, Nature Friendly Farming Network, the NFU are now also kind of collaborating, so it's a massive networks of people. The Green Alliance, who have we got? The Scouts we're also talking to, Women's Institute, so lots of different NGOs, because we're offering something which, as Emma mentioned before, is very collaborative, very sharing. We will also be sharing that content through the UNFCCC. So they've been looking for, how do we create an extended kind of intro to the COP with very tangible examples. We've got various different media partnerships that are developed and are developing. So you could quickly show that slide if you want to, Ruth. So I've been speaking to some time to BBC Breakfast and ITV and Good Morning Britain. Those dynamics are slightly changing because Tim and I also pitched to Sky the other day with a potential bigger partnership. So who knows quite where that will go, but they're all saying basically everybody's going to cover this. So is this something we want to have as uniquely ours, or do we want to share it? So that's the key part of it. Within the expedition crew, we also have got the ability to do from sponsorship from live view, live broadcast into any media. So there'll basically be lots of coverage. If that's something that's of interest to you, that's a key thing in terms of A, getting stories out, but B, also opportunities for brand. So do we have one moment to talk quite practically about brand and association with it? So Ruth, maybe you could pop up a slide which is of the wing and the motor and kit just for background. She can find it. So yeah, we've got on top of that media, there's BBC World are doing a multi-part series following the expedition, but also making a film at the end of it, and that has 110 million viewers a week, which they will play repeatedly. Radio 4 are also looking at doing extension. So they're doing a piece on the next expedition to Africa, and then now looking at doing an extension on this trip as well. So we're getting everybody from your breakfast television to your Radio 4 sort of audience to travel programs. Yeah, and the opportunity for partners, we have got a range still. So we are looking for sponsors in the sort of 5 to 30K. Our headline sponsor, it looks like that has gone, but the major sponsor is still there. So that's, you know, big recognition on the wing. But then the other sponsorships also involve recognition on the vehicles, which are they're EVs. And whilst the project is about the flying, the realities of the EVs is that they form the camp every night. So all of the interactions with local people, etc., our team, they happen at night in camp around vehicles and camp and people. So there's plenty of opportunities there. There's also the website where we'll be posting all of our stories live and information on how you go from watching a story to then acting. So yeah, plenty of ways for companies to get involved and interact, and opportunities to also tell your stories.
So Sasha, how do you fancy landing in Dundee?
Sounds good to me.
So,
what are you suggesting?
Well, Ian Stirling, I don't know, is Ruth able to bring on someone who's
yeah,
quite keen? So maybe if Ian Stirling can it sounds like a seance, can you make yourself present? If Ian can jump on the screen and make that offer to us, that would be terrific, Ian, thank you.
Yeah, because we're basically, distillery's right on the beach, so you're going to be passing us anyway.
Perfect. Yep.
And I saw a kind of combination of maybe Eden Project, because they're coming to Dundee hopefully, Michelin Innovation Park. There's a whole load of different things, and whoever wants to, whether they're coming south from Aberdeen, north from Dundee, or whoever fits. And also if you're camping, it's also quite good to have some sort of social liquid, we'll say. It's always a good thing to have, and it's, you know, climate positive, so you can feel guilt-free. It's you know, I think it's a nice combination. So the offer's there. I'm not imposing it. It's just one of those ones. And I think also we're also farmers and distillers, so we can engage with both those communities because we're members of both and have been for a long time.
Yeah. So Ian's done his I'm Spartacus moment. So I'm kind of hoping now that you've all felt a bit braver to jump in. And by the way, we've only got something like 12 minutes left. So you didn't realise tonight you were coming to come on and help set a world record. So there you go. So you can tick that box. We're going to help Sasha and Tim set a world record. But if there's anyone else that feels that coming on and speaking 2 world records, my goodness, maybe we can do a 3rd one if we can invent something. So if there anyone else wants to offer ideas, because for me, and again, it's very much the climate emergency to climate opportunity for solutions. We can't just be talking about the problems and circling the wagons. We need to, the UK needs to be seen as that pioneer. So if you're sticking with that metaphor, we've got the best possible opportunity to do something seismic that's never been done before. Paris was pretty good, but Glasgow has to be sensational. Has to be sensational. There's no shortage of money. There's no shortage of ingenuity. So on that note, I'm looking at maybe, you know, Poonam Malik or someone. Sasha, you've maybe spotted someone who's.
I'm just looking at the comments, which are quite exciting in the chat.
Can you capture all that? Wait,
so Justin Keeble, does he mind saying something?
Yes. Come on, Justin.
Thanks so much, and super inspiring and really exciting. As you might know, we have 500,000 employees worldwide, and we've kind of set out 5 ambitions to COP. Obviously, the key one is how we catalyze transformation within the industries that we serve. So Nigel Topping obviously is talking about tipping points, and we believe that technology will be at the heart of enabling many of these new kind of zero carbon business models. But also we've got a tremendous opportunity to reach out to those 500,000 employees and get them engaged in the run up to and during COP26. So we'd love to explore how we could get their passion behind your ambitions.
Fantastic.
Perhaps $1 million is too low now. Maybe we need 2, Tim. What do you reckon? Maybe we should go for 2.
Hey, you know what they say, under promise and overachieve.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's go for $1 million and then really shock ourselves.
Justin, that's terrific. That's fantastic. And of course, Accenture have such an important role at COP by, galvanizing that message about optimism over outrage, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, we're very positive. We think the solutions are there. It's just a challenge of scale. And so we've got to influence business leaders, decision makers at every level within organizations to embrace the solutions that we know already exist. So I think we're very optimistic. There's just obviously collectively there's a lot of work to do.
Super, thank you. Poonam's just pointed out to me that Alan just put his hand up. Ruth pointed that Alan's put his hand up to talk. Alan, see you up there. Now this is going to be exciting, people. So I just thought I'd warn you.
Oh God, don't say that.
Because Alan doesn't do half measures.
So yeah, super inspiring. I think it's all been said, but I'm maybe building a wee bit on what Justin's talked about. Between all the businesses we variously know, what if we could mobilize a kind of employee army to get out and get, walking, running, cycling, doing a sort of Olympic torch type of thing right around the length and breadth of Britain, walking their supply chains, meeting their customer base. What are they doing? Are they signed up to count as in, can we get on and do it? And can we, have a bit of, sort of race to it as well. And I'm declaring a bit of personal interest because I'd love to run some of it. Maybe not all of Britain, but just a wee bash at some of that. But wouldn't it be cool if we could mobilise lots of folk on that?
Sorry, Sasha, what was that?
I was going to say you could do the whole way. If you can do 66 miles in a day, what's that? 2? Is that 3 marathons? Yeah, then you could do the whole journey.
A breeze for Alan, surely.
Yeah.
Good about that.
Excellent.
So Alan, the reach for business, the community is quite seismic too, isn't it? So you can maybe try and help socialise that count as in maybe during the, obviously all the time, but especially during the Round Britain travel, the Round Britain challenge. I think it'd be good to see a spike in people taking action. That would be terrific.
What about John from Waitrose?
Hi guys, sorry, just kind of struggling to unmute there. Thank you, Sasha. Yeah, you know what, we think there's some really good opportunity with kind of on the ground sort of knowledge transfer here, because there's definitely in our minds there's a disconnect between the farmers who produce our food and their understanding of a lot of the challenges it's in the environment space. And I think kind of that real kind of hustings kind of knowledge transfer opportunities, you kind of travel around the land on farms, is really important. Because farming is going through its biggest change at the moment in probably 50 years, and making sure that we bring the farming community along is absolutely critical in this. As big businesses, we all kind of understand all this stuff and we all assume that everybody else is in the same space, and that's absolutely not the case. And so that on the ground hearts and minds work is a key part of this, and that's why we think what you're doing is absolutely brilliant. And we're working through how so that we can help you, because it's a critical piece of work. It really is.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And we heard just slightly before from Ian Stirling, who's I think the technical term is a farmer. So he's from a farming background, and Ian, I had a chat with Ian and his brother this week, I think it was, Ian, wasn't it? And some of the stuff they've told me that they're doing is mind-blowing. It's about doing distilling pure alcohol here in a completely carbon positive way. So actually, Sasha, when you finish up tonight and you have a glass of a Bicky gin, you know that the more you drink it, the more you're saving the planet. I'm joking, of course. Well, yeah, kind of. So Terry Hearn put the point on there as well. SEPA interacts with thousands of organisations in Scotland, and we do have this kind of really good relationship with Scotland and business, so we can influence, and both Terry's going to have a think about how we can do that. So I'd love to see more people, you know, if you're feeling motivated, and if you're not, but you've already heard from Tim, he's going to come and find you and hunt you down. So, you know, let's think about what you want to do, how you can do it. Justin's already promised us. Did somebody write that down? 500,000? I just put it down. Just throw it down there anyway.
We've made a record.
We've got it's all recorded. So, is there anyone else feel like you feel motivated? Ian, I see you're back on. Have you got some other super duper offer for us to get involved in this? Or have I just landed you in it?
I was just thinking about the farming education piece, because we work with James Hutton Institute and we work with Abertay University, particularly in the food and drink space. So actually, they're very much in that education space because obviously we are doing the pea legume project that all this alcohol comes from, but there's huge opportunities there in terms of sequestration and farming peas, or carbon farming, as Dieter Helm is now educating me on, bit of self-education, but you know, that kind of knowledge transfer would be a really positive thing to do.
Yeah. Can I add one note there on, it's not, well, farmers and hunters and all different sorts of industries. That's one thing we found on the Flight of the Swans, that there's something about flying in somewhere in a flying machine and landing in someone's field that just is a very leveling thing for a conversation. And it means that people don't kind of, there's no instant feel like, oh God, are you an environmentalist who's going to challenge me on something? It's a conversation about, oh my God, what are you doing? Why have you got so much skin in the game? And then why do you care so much? And eventually people start to want to ask, look, how can I help? And so it worked with lots of people on the last expedition. It'll work on this again. And as I said, no farmer yet has said no.
Conscious forgot this is the fastest 55 minutes of all time. So Bobby Kane's put his hand up. So maybe Bobby, if you can come on and speak to us, and then we should recognise the comments from Dave Ray and Polly about aquaculture. What we've created here, I think, is this kind of this vibe now of people really wanting. Now, one suggestion I would make, if you really want to showcase a lot of the things you're thinking about doing, I can't suggest a better looking initiative than this one that's going to have massive appeal. And we all think Sasha's just off her head, but absolutely genius to want to do something like this. So the least we can do is help her. So Bobby, I'm looking at you. What's your offer here? Or
yeah, Mark, how are you doing?
I'm great, Bobby. Yeah. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. With us, it's basically, we're a small company, a small startup, and looking at technology and the impact of that, and we're bringing university students in. But we've got a lovely, we install base of renewable energy for smart streetlights in Oban, which is a lovely wee place. The Scottish Sea Farms. I think if you want to scoot by there, drop in and have a wee word, you're more than welcome, and we can talk about that and what we're doing with the small startups and technology we've designed locally that's actually basically going to help us with climate change.
It's fantastic. And I think on the basis of some of these offers coming in, Sasha, maybe is it Ruth's probably the best person to now do some collation for you, because I sense you're going to get lots of emails after this saying, I'm in, where do I get involved, and what's the sort of options that are available? Is that the best thing, Sasha, for you next?
Yes, I think so. So there's actually a few people in this call. So Ruth will coordinate everything. If you want to wave Ruth or say hello. So she'll pull everything together and email people. We'll also send you out a bit more information as well. Sasha Clements, do you want to say a quick hello? If anybody has a specific question around... Yes,
please.
You're not unmuting yourself, Sasha. Would you mind unmuting yourself, Sasha? So Sasha handled all the kind of corporate relations plus logistics and things on the last expedition. And yeah, if you've got any specific questions on logistics or getting badging on things or contacting an expedition team while they're out in the field and a difficult, how do you get media from A to B, all that sort of stuff, Sasha's your person, so we'll link you in with her as well. And Jackie is pulling together all the research stories, so if it's a story suggestion, it will be Jackie Peterson that will most likely speak to you. Polly's putting a hand up. Or waving, okay, she's waving, sorry.
So I think with 3 minutes to go, I'd like to just, personally thank everyone. That this has been so exciting. I wish it was in a room where we could all sit together and drink our Bicky gin, but we can't at the moment. When we can, we will, and we should, especially to celebrate that 2 million, or did we say 3, Tim? I can't remember now. It might have been 3. It might have been 3. Well, you know,
I thought the Scots were stingy. You are completely breaking all the rules.
well, do you know that term? It was Christiana Figueres, name drop, who said when we met her, she said she thought the Scots were doer. She said, but you're actually doers. And I thought that was really good. So I'm going to go with that. She didn't put it in her book, sadly. So, but anyway.
And in fact, that does highlight my prime question. I don't know how many people in this call are Scottish. It seems like quite a few. That we have this slight problem of we have to start and end in Glasgow. But do we go clockwise or anti-clockwise? And there's a slight challenge that if we do Scotland and it's so impressive, and then that it might be a bit of a downer as we do everything else. Or do we hold off Scotland for the most impressive grand finale?
Yeah,
Martin, we'll leave that question open.
Yes, well, obviously, you know, the weather's always fantastic here, so you know, you've got to think of that. And I just actually had 2 beach offers already.
Beaches are the perfect place to land. It's pretty much always got onshore wind laminated, even if the wind's strong and it's a soft landing. So yeah, beaches are good.
Everything we're talking about today builds wind to the sails of the narrative that we want to be the drumbeat for the UK at COP26, isn't it? We are a terrified nation that's on our knees, worried about Climageddon. We are the opposite of that. We are absolutely hell-bent and fired up to make sure that we smash it, and we're going to be relentless in our pursuit to make sure that COP26 is the one that the world needs. John Kerry said it himself. He said the last chance saloon is Glasgow. So if we can work with you, Sasha, and some of the amazing businesses on this fantastic cause, thank you so much for giving up your evenings. It's so generous of you. But I think you'll thank me later, because this is the coolest thing you're going to probably get involved in ever. Not to mention the world records for that, 4 million count us in. I think it was 4, wasn't it? So unless there's anything to go, that's exactly 1 hour since it started, and it went like that. But I'm sure this won't be the end of the conversation, Sasha. So I'd like to give you the last word to finish us off. And actually, I've got so many heroes on here: Marie Macklin and Poonam Malik and Sue Patterson. I didn't even get a chance to speak to because I was too busy rabbiting on. But this is what happens when you get a half Italian excited. So Sasha, over to you. If there's anything you'd like to say as closing remarks.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for giving up an hour of your time in the evening, and I look forward to having individual conversations with all of you. Some of you we started already, others it's just the start of it. And yeah, thanks very much for being up for making this crazy idea happen.
So thank you, everyone. Have an absolutely lovely, pleasant evening, and we will see you soon. And we'll definitely see you at COP, virtual or physical, one way or the other. So thank you so much for your time, everyone, and we'll be in touch. Thank you. Good night, everyone. Thank you.